associate with doesn't have an issue or an objection to the aborted fetal tissue or so forth with vaccines, but you do. The First Amendment recognizes that. Right. In fact, it would violate the Establishment Clause if a religious exemption was limited to organized religions. Many courts have held that. And in fact, there are only 6 states in America up until recently that had only a medical exemption to attend school. There's now 5 because, we had a case that we brought in Mississippi where the judge ordered that because there was a secular exemption, medical, and the state was able to accommodate for a secular reason, they also had to accommodate for a religious reason. Obviously, we're very happy with that ruling, and we intend to bring that. ICANN is supporting us to bring that same lawsuit in all the other 5 states that don't have any exemption of the medical exemption to attend school, which is Cali, New York, Connecticut, Maine, and West Virginia. This will be the one video I show. So this might give you a little bit of insight into why some people might have a religious objection to vaccination.
In your work related to vaccines, how many fetuses have been part of that work?
My own personal work, 2.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 41. Okay. Are you familiar with this article, Dr. Plotkin?
Yes.
Okay. Are you listed as an author on this article?
Yes.
Okay. This study took place at the Wistar Institute, correct?
Yes.
You were at the Wistar Institute, correct?
Yes.
How many fetuses were used in the study described in this article?
Quite a few.
So this study involved 74 fetuses, correct?
I don't remember exactly how many.
To turn to page 12 of the study.
Yeah, 76.
76.
Mm-hmm.
And these fetuses were all 3 months or older when aborted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these were all normally developed fetuses, correct?
Yes.
What organs did you harvest from these fetuses?
Well, I didn't personally harvest any, but a whole range of tissues were harvested by co-workers.
Okay. And these pieces were then cut up into little pieces, right?
Yes.
And they were cultured?
Yes.
Okay. Some of the pieces of the fetuses were pituitary gland that were chopped up into pieces to okay, included the lung of the fetuses?
Yes.
Okay, included the skin,
Yes.
kidney,
Yes.
spleen,
Yes.
heart,
Yes.
and tongue.
I don't recall, but yeah, probably yes.
So I just want to make sure I understand. In your entire career, and this was just one study, so I'm going to ask you again. In your entire career, how many fetuses have you worked with?
Well, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a few when we were studying them originally, before we decided to use them to make vaccines.
Do you have any sense? I mean, this one study had 76. How many other studies did you have that you used aborted fetuses for?
Oh, I don't remember how many.
You're aware? Are you aware that one of the objections to vaccination by the plaintiff in this case is the inclusion of aborted fetal tissue in the development of vaccines and the fact that it's actually part of the ingredients of vaccines?
Yeah, I'm aware of those objections. The Catholic Church has actually issued a document on that which says that individuals who need the vaccines should receive the vaccines regardless of the fact, and that I think it implies that I am the individual who will go to hell because of the use of aborted tissues, which I am glad to do.
Okay. Do you know if the mother is Catholic?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you take issue with religious beliefs?
Yes.
Okay. You have said that, quote, vaccination is always under attack by religious zealots who believe that the will of God includes death and disease?
Yes,
You stand by that statement?
I absolutely do.
Okay. Are you an atheist?
Yes.
I just want you to understand that when they talk about taking 76 completely normally developing fetuses and they have to take them out and they take pretty much every single organ, they chop them up into 3 centimeter cubes and they try to culture and see which one is the best medium to grow vaccine virus on. Those cells have to be alive. You can't culture undead cells. So when those organs are coming out of those babies, they must remain, the cells all must be alive. The tongue, the heart, the liver, the lungs, everything in that baby was alive. The cells, and they have to remain that way. And what they do is they take them and they see which is going to be the best medium to grow on, because viruses only multiply in cells, in alive cells. So, for example, the chickenpox vaccine, to make the virus that goes into the vial, they grow the chickenpox virus on cultured cell line of aborted fetal tissue. There are literally, in every vial of chickenpox vaccine that's injected into every child, in every vial, there are billions, not millions, billions of pieces of cellular debris and DNA from an aborted fetal cell line in every single shot, because part of the manufacturing process can't remove the virus, which are super, super tiny, from the cellular substrate that they're grown on. And I'll make one other point about religious convictions, and it really goes back to the military and the Army. Members of our military swear an oath to lay down their lives to defend the Constitution. And the very first freedom under the Bill of Rights of the Constitution is freedom of free exercise, to live your convictions. And yet the members of our military who sought a religious exemption with the COVID-19 vaccine were being denied it and wrote. As many of you know, we brought a lawsuit against the Air Force that got a class-wide injunction preventing the Air Force from kicking out over 10,000 members of the Air Force. We brought one against the Army. And it really goes back to what was being discussed earlier, that it is really a failure of leadership that those who are running the military can't even recognize that the very freedom they're asking their soldiers to fight for and die for and bleed for, they're not even honoring for their own soldiers. And I could see how that would be very, very destructive to morale. Certainly in our clients, we understand that. Okay, one thing you hear anybody say, I believe in planes, I believe in chainsaws, I believe in knives. Nope, but they believe in vaccines. You hear that all day long, and it's a very big truism. It really is. It's almost an ideology, you know. And you also hear all the time, vaccines are the only thing that can save us from the pandemic. Isn't that kind of the language reserved for religion, right? If somebody said to you, the only thing that will save you is this product, what do you actually typically think was the only thing that's going to save you? Right. You think something else, not vaccines. Next slide. Okay. Nobody should be coerced to abandon their beliefs for the beliefs of quote-unquote health authorities. And a lot of what you hear about vaccines is dogma beliefs. Next slide. Medical exemptions. That's the other type of exemptions available. Next slide, please. Medical exemptions, like all medicine, should be based on clinical judgment. You go to your doctor, they know you, they know everything about you, they've spent their life caring for you. They should be able to make a decision that you should or should not receive this medicine. But unlike virtually every other area of medicine, where we rely on the clinical judgment of doctors to treat patients, next slide, for vaccines, that is taken away in virtually every state where it has a mandate. The mandate, the medical exemption, is not based on clinical judgment. It's based on a predetermined list made by the government over at the CDC called the CDC Contraindication and Precautions List. And in fact, not only do they have a list of things that they say you can get an exemption, medical exemption for, which is extraordinarily narrow, typically requires you to have been injured by the same vaccine before, okay? But they actually have a longer list of all the things they say are definitely not contraindications or precautions, including, you put the example there, you can review it later, for DTaP. You know, for example, it provides that essentially if a parent has 2 children and one of them gets a DTaP vaccine and dies from it, that's not good enough for an exemption for their other child.